SwiftUI.
Yeah.
What are we on year 4.5 now? No, it was 19. It was 19.
Yeah, I
So
was about to say,
5
I think
years.
5, yeah.
Yeah. What? Where are we? Like,
I mean, I haven't written kit's code like from scratch in probably 3 years now, maybe
nice.
4. So we're at a good spot, I think. I think for a lot of the apps that I work on, they're usually smaller if they're new. SwiftUI is perfectly fine. Like the new navigation model that we got, I think in iOS 16, is pretty good. Like navigation path. I know not everybody loves it, but I think it's much better than it was before.
Hmm.
There's still some components like image picker. I've still dropped down to UIKit for that. I think SwiftUI has a built-in one right now that I tried. I didn't like it, so I decided to do the bridging thing. And yeah, in client projects, like existing client projects, that's the only place where I still do UIKit, pretty much.
Are you seeing clients wanting to move from UIKit to SwiftUI? Like, yeah, this is
Yeah,
getting a pain in the butt. Can you just move it to SwiftUI because we want to add?
yeah. I don't think I've seen any client that said, "Oh no, we're fine with UIKit. We intend to stay there."
Okay.
They've all said we want to move to SwiftUI. We want new stuff to be done in SwiftUI. A lot of concerns around navigation because a lot of them will use like a coordinator pattern or something like that. And that seems to be like it's not a fully figured out problem with SwiftUI yet. There's some
Hmm.
takes on it. But yeah, UIKit has a specific way of doing that. So if you have your UIKit app, it can be pretty much non-trivial to migrate that into the SwiftUI world. So a lot of people will keep their like UIKit view controller that just presents a full screen SwiftUI view. That's a pattern that I've seen a lot and still
Okay.
see today.
Do you? Yeah. When do you dip into UIKit? You said.
For image picker is one that I did recently.
Okay. Yeah, we talked recently in a previous episode. I think it was with Nathan about contacts and event stuff that still needs UIKit, and then like for me, it's mostly with Bushel. It's been AppKit stuff dealing with like
Mhm.
Windows directly and stuff that I
Yeah.
can only do with NS Window Delegate and things like that.
Yeah, I think for the Mac there's been more rough edges than for iOS.
Yeah, yeah.
Also Hover
Well,
APIs. I don't know if those are fixed, but I know Hover used to be pretty bad.
what it seems to me is like iPad is like, well, okay, iPhone is the first class citizen, is number one, but iPad would be number two, and
Yeah.
then like Mac is number three. So if they do something with iPad that involves Windows or stuff like that, then the Mac will get it too. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like
yeah,
iPad is like the middle thing there, right? Where
right,
iPad gets everything iPhone gets,
right.
and then they want to make iPad better, and it's like, oh, might as well throw this at the Mac too.
So speaking of, was there anything else you wanted to mention with
No,
SwiftUI?
no, don't
Speaking
think
of
so.
platforms, we had a new platform revealed 2 years ago now, year and a half.
Yeah.
That was going to revolutionize everything. And we're talking about the Vision Pro.
Hmm.
You got one, right?
I don't.
You did it. Oh my gosh. I'm so surprised. Um, yeah. Have you done anything with it? Any thoughts
I've
on it?
I've tried it. It's a cool device. Like it feels very high end, very high quality. Sensors seem pretty good. I think what it's mostly suffering from is just it's great tech, but it's not necessarily doing something that a Quest cannot do.
Do you have a Quest?
Um, I don't have one. I borrowed one from a friend for a little while, so
Okay.
I used it a bit. But the Quest did feel a little bit more clunky with the controllers that one had.
So
And
the Quest, did you just play games on it?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, so like the Vision Pro differentiates itself when it comes to like movies and work, right?
for sure. Yeah. And so that's where it's really good. I think for movies, I don't see myself sitting on a couch and telling my wife, like, hey, I'm going to watch a movie. You go enjoy something else and just putting on the Vision.
Right, right,
Um,
exactly.
right. And like for airplanes, it's great. But realistically, how much do you actually fly for most people, right? So there's
Right.
all these things where it's really good. I think for productivity and having like a big screen while working, it could be pretty cool. But then again, for the 4,000 that I would spend on Vision, I can probably get like a pretty cool setup in the real world, right?
Right.
So, and that's
Right.
sort of where I keep bumping into with Vision. It's like it does a lot of things really well, but it feels like it's just not the one thing that consumers would really need. And I think Apple is sort of hoping that with this iteration, developers would pick it up and they would build that killer app. Right? Remember, like when people would buy iPhones, I think, just to play Angry Birds. I know definitely that was a selling point for me, where Angry Birds would be on it and would be so cool.
Right.
I don't think I think Apple's hoping that Vision would get like a handful of apps where people would be like, and this is why you need Vision, and they didn't really get that. It seems.
Do you think that's related to the Vision Pro? Do you think it's related to the App Store?
I think it's
Like,
probably a
do
bit
you
of
think how the
everything.
challenging of building for a device like this?
I think it's probably a bit of everything. I think companies that are good at building VR experiences kind of looked at this and decided, no, we'd much rather keep developing for the platforms that we already have. I think developers were like, oh, this is really cool, but it's expensive. So there's only a handful of developers that were like, I think this is really cool. I'm going to build stuff for this. So they bought it and they built stuff. But then most Vision owners that I know, they're like probably 8 out of 10, they only really use it because it's sitting in their office and they see it and they're like, I should use that. And then they put it on, they're just like, okay, now what do I do? And there's only a couple that are like, I use it like multiple times a week for work or for this or for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
We could go
it's
on
probably a
about
mix
it.
of everything. And I think the pricing too, right? It's three and a
Oh,
half
it's definitely
thousand,
price.
4,000,
Yeah.
where it's like it's only attractive to people that are hoping to make an app for it right now. I don't think, and like super rich people, but I don't think I would be able to recommend to any of my non-developer friends to get one
Well, I
at
mean,
that
I
price
wouldn't
point.
recommend my developer friends to get one either.
Well, if they were interested in making an app for it, but other than that,
But that's
yeah,
you're never gonna make the money back. I mean, you
true.
better be doing it with as a hobby and not as a like
Oh
financial
yeah,
thing,
oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Um, yeah. So like, I have right here my Pro Display XDR that I probably paid about the same as the Vision Pro, and guess what? I like actually use it every day, and it
Hmm.
has really good quality picture. And like with the Vision Pro, it's just like I know I'm gonna have like 52 paper cuts, like dealing with it, like and just being like I'm done. I don't want to deal with this. I'm just gonna go on my Mac. So like that's part of the problem too that I saw was like, yeah, it's a great experience when I do the demo, but like, oh, the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or oh, like there's a problem with the battery, or oh, it's just I don't want to deal with it. I also
Yeah,
too am a little bit I wouldn't say burnt, but I've gone through this with the Apple Watch, so I'm like, yeah, like it's gonna take a while, even if it does become a success. So I'd rather
yeah,
wait and see
yeah.
before I
And
get
I
something out
think
there.
Apple Watch, the nice thing right now, especially, I think it came down in price. It feels like I don't know, but it's not super expensive, right? An Apple Watch, I think,
No,
and
it's nowhere
that's
near as
why it's so
expensive.
popular. I think if they could make a Vision headset for like 1,000 to 1,500, like basically iPad pricing, I think a
Mm,
lot of people would be interested in it.
mm, I mean, you still have to have the app market for it.
Yeah, yeah, but at least then it would be within reach for more people, and yeah, it wouldn't be as hard of a sell.
Yeah, I guess for me to spend that kind of money, I better use it like every
For
day.
sure, for
I mean,
sure, yeah.
that's my philosophy, but that's not the consumer market. So who am I to judge, right? Um. All right, so let's talk about the big thing this year. Well, it's been a big thing for the last few years, but Apple finally dipped their toes into AI.
Hmm.
Um, where's Donnie at with AI? When can we expect that practical AI book to
A
come out?
practical AI book. I don't know if I would be the person to write that, to be honest. But I started the year. I've been on a journey with AI this year. I think I started the year pretty skeptical, basically like echoing what everybody else says, like, oh, but I can't even ask it to do this. I very vividly remember a demo from Paul Hudson 2 years ago, or like almost 2 years ago at iOS Conf SG, where he said, let's try to use ChatGPT to build a clock. And he just kind of told it, like, write me a Swift app that displays a clock with moving hands, like a detailed prompt. And it kept like messing up. I'm pretty sure the same demo today would be much better. But
Jordy did that.
no, that was Paul Hudson. At Deep Dish, he did something similar. Okay.
No, Jordy did it at Deep Dish, and it was a success. It wasn't a clock; it was something else. But
yeah. Because with the clock, the messy thing was that it kept messing up like the angles of the arms and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that if Paul Hudson did the same demo like today, it would be so much better already. And I think for me, the thing to figure out and the thing that I learned throughout the year is, okay, so this AI thing is only getting bigger, right? And we can keep saying, oh, but it can't even build an app. Oh, but it can't even do this. Oh, but I have to do this. So I was kind of like, so what can we do? Right? It's so easy to give it stuff that it can't do. And then I started just asking it for like small bits. Like, hey, I want to clip an image. I have a UI image. I want to clip it to be a circle. How do I do that? And like it just gave me small snippets, small bits and pieces, and just put them into a project. And then Cursor came out, and I took that, and people were saying like it's so great, it can do anything. So I was just like, okay, let's see. So I told it like write me code to make an API call to the most useful stock market app that's out there. I was like, well, you can use this one, but you need an API key. So like, I don't have API keys, just give me anything. And it just used like some stock market API, and it would just make a request. So I'd use documentation, everything, and it actually worked, right? And then I told it like, okay, make a website out of this. Like, allow me to do this, allow me to do that. And I think I actually was able to mess with it for 4 to 5 hours, adding features until something broke, and I wasn't able to figure out what. Because my experiment was, I'm not going to review the code. But I'm just going to tell it what I want, accept any suggestion. But like being able to go over 4 to 5 hours before it actually messed up to the point where I couldn't fix it, I think was really cool. And I made a website, right? It wasn't an app, so it wasn't something I was very comfortable with per se. And so that's when I learned like, okay, so if we actually use an AI tool like this, we can ask it for small bits, small pieces. We still have to break down the problem. We can ask it to help break down the problem if we want. We're still breaking down a problem. We're still finding the pieces. And so now I actually use AI like all day long. I have Copilot from GitHub inside of Xcode.
Okay.
And so one of the complaints people have about that is it can't do like whole apps or like whole views or stuff like that. And I actually kind of like it that way. I like, just today I was writing like a function to like expand a rectangle into a circle. So it's like, okay, where's the middle of the rectangle? So mid X equals like, oh, you have a rectangle. Maybe want to use its mid X position. And then I hit enter, and it was like, maybe you also want to have mid Y. So like, yeah, I want mid Y. And then it sort of just kept like hinting 1 or 2 lines at a time. And that's super nice because it's very easy to digest for me as a developer. And it just saves me keystrokes, right? Like it's like it's reading my mind in terms of what I want to do. And that's where I like it.
What do you think? You said used Copilot. Did you try using the Apple generative AI stuff in Xcode?
So only the Swift autocomplete thing, which is complete garbage.
Okay.
Like I didn't try. I think 16.2 is supposed to be better, but for me it's sort of I disabled it after I wrote .frame, and it suggested .frame with : space biodegradable, and I was like, that's not even valid Swift. Like, why are you suggesting this? Like, this is ridiculous. You're supposed to be good at Swift.
Right, right.
That's when I was like, okay, this thing is getting in the way more than it's being useful.
Yeah. We didn't talk about job market. Should we cover that before we close out?
Why not?
How's it been for you?
So the job market, it's I've never fully relied on the job market. Like, I always made a point out of that. So that's been good for me. And I tend to favor long-term engagements with clients. And so I had 2 of those going into the year. One I got out of around March. with no like urge to replace that client because I just had a baby at that point. So I was like, you know what, it's not too bad having one
Yeah.
fewer client. And so towards the end of the year, I was sort of thinking like maybe I should start thinking about replacing that client now. And I heard a lot of people say like, oh, job market's not good, job market's not good. Luckily, I had like two people reach out a couple weeks ago. But that said, those are probably the only two people that I had in my inbox for like 8 months or something like that.
Yeah.
So I can definitely tell the job market's not great. I do feel like it's somewhat like picking up, but I'm wondering if it's companies spending their budget, right? Because it's end of the year. If you don't spend your budget, you might not
Right.
get new budget for the new year. So maybe they're
Right.
like, okay,
Right.
we should spend that. So it's always hard to say at the end of the year. I think it's tough times overall. Like I don't hear anybody saying that jobs are just there currently.
Why do
Like,
you
now
think
is what
that
it
is?
I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of companies probably spent too much money in general.
During
They
COVID?
have just in general for the past many years, right? So it's not
Okay.
something new. Like all the VC capital and stuff. Like it seems like money is infinite in some tech companies. I do feel like a lot of people are looking for the super high paying jobs that you almost only get like at like the big 5 or 6 companies that are from the US. Especially in the Netherlands, there's like only 3 or 4 of them that will pay you like 150K plus. And that's where people want to be, right? So I feel like a lot of smaller companies are just struggling to hire. Um, and they're not as visible. So, yeah, why is it? I'm not exactly sure. I think there's a lot of expectations from developers in terms of pay. I think there's probably also a lot of companies just trying to cut costs. I wonder how much, the political landscape in the U.S. elections and stuff. Maybe companies were reluctant to spend around that, because I do feel like that's always a time where a lot can change for companies. So yeah, maybe they were reluctant to spend for a bit, but it's hard to say. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I find it hard to say.
Okay. Do you think it's going to get better in 25?
Maybe I think in 25, you'll see that AI knowledge and AI skills will be more important than they are today. So I wonder if like the kind of person that people are looking for will change.
I mean, do you think AI is going to continue getting better and better, or do you think there's a ceiling to it?
I think there will be a ceiling to it. I don't think we've reached it yet. Right? We
Okay.
have these like super broad models that can do a lot of things. I wonder if we're going to see like more specific models or like interfaces for more specific stuff
That's a really good point. Yeah.
to come up. Things like RAG, I forgot what it stands for, but what it means is like inserting more and more context into your LLM.
Yeah.
So when you have your code base, you give it all the files, you teach it like what's in your code base, and then from there, you can ask questions. I think it's only going to get better at that. Yeah. So I think AI is going to
I
get better
agree
for a little
100%.
while.
And I think like there's too much of an emphasis on trying to build a sentient general intelligence and not
Yeah,
like an actual tool that's useful to people.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think once that realization comes in, I think, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that, where like you build a more specific model to do stuff.
Yeah, and I always say like I don't think AI is going to come for our jobs as developers. I do think if we ignore AI and we just keep pretending that it's not going to do anything for us for long enough, I think you'll be out of a job because there's
Yes.
just going to be like
It's
junior
like
developers or other people running
I'm old
circles
enough
around you.
to have developed like not before the internet, but like when it wasn't quite as useful.
Hmm.
And like I feel like it's like the internet where it's like now you could just look up stuff. You don't have to
Yeah,
like
maybe. Yeah,
figure it out on your own or look up a paper manual, where now it's like
yeah,
you can actually just ask AI uh, a question.
yeah.
It
And
does its best.
it also kind of reminds me of like other transitions, right? Objective C to Swift, where There were definitely Objective-C developers saying, oh, but you should still know how Objective-C works under the hood, otherwise you can't be a great iOS developer. They were right for a couple of years, and now it's just like, who cares about Objective-C? Similarly, UIKit to SwiftUI, people are like, oh, but all these newcomers, they only learn SwiftUI, they're never going to be able to build like a great app. 5 years later, like who still touches UIKit? Like only a few people. Like you can learn SwiftUI only. And I'm pretty sure AI is going to be a similar story where people are saying now like, oh, you don't need it, or oh, you still need to know exactly what the code is doing under the hood. There's for sure value in that, but I think a lot of companies also just care about getting stuff done. Rather than, oh, right, there's a better way to write this for loop. You should have used that. Yeah, maybe, but this one works too. So yeah, I think there's going to be like a lot of room for people to do AI. And I'm not saying it's not important to learn how to code really well. I think that's extremely important. But I think people that solely focus on that and don't look at how AI could be enriching their workflow rather than fighting it all the time. I think that's where people are wrong.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Donny, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you online?
So all the social networks these days, right? Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, X. But if you actually want to have a conversation with me, Blue Sky is where I'm mostly at these days.
Okay. Sounds good. You can find me on all the social networks as well at Leo G. Dion. My company is Bright Digit. If you really enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe and give me a review. Or if you're watching this on YouTube as well. I'm trying to think what else I was supposed to mention. If you haven't had a chance, try out Bushel. Version 2 should be released, so give that a try. And I'm trying to think what else I have to mention on this episode. Should always have that in my notes, shouldn't I? If there isn't, I'll probably have had it in the intro. So Thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me, Leo.
Oh, hey, Matt. We'll be on and, yeah, no problem.
Hey, Matt. Great to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, see you soon. This is the first time with Riverside. I just created one studio, but then I put like a schedule to it, and I didn't know it was gonna allow the other person in. That's right. Whatever.
Well, the funnest part is you got two concurrent podcast guests who both love Swift concurrency, so it fits. Right? You came in, little data race in there.
Yeah, but you're the main actor.
That's true.